I jumped around a little bit. I'm sorry about that. So shellfish, we have number 6 is Tracy. Then we have the Solid Waste Committee recycling presentation.
Okay,
That is going to be John Dykstra.
okay.
Oh, I thought you said you had it.
He has some.
Attendees to join.
Gotcha.
Okay, now you guys are. You ready? Yeah, I'm ready. You're up. Okay, now we're on the air, Mike.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone. This is a virtual Board of Selectmen meeting. We are using the Zoom conferencing format. The webinar ID is 940-6973-7684. If you wish to make a public comment and speak on the agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature on your device. The moderator will be notified and will unmute you. Please identify yourself before making any comment. Okay, item 2 on the agenda, approve the December 22nd and the 23rd Selectmen meeting minutes. But before we do that, I'll take the roll call of Selectmen present. I'm here, Mike Weston, Ed Hutchins,
Here.
Pat Briggs,
Here.
and Sheila and Alan are absent tonight. So we'll move right on to approving the December 22nd, 23rd Selectmen meeting minutes.
So move.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All those in favor, just raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes. Okay, number 3 is the public forum. It's an opportunity for anyone who wants to address the Board of Selectmen with any issue that is not on the agenda. If there is any written comment received prior to the meeting, it will be forwarded to the Selectmen and the town manager will read the comment. So, Dave,
No new hands are raised.
okay, moving on.
Mike,
Item-
can you just let people know we're not going to talk about short-term rentals tonight? Because I do see
Yeah.
some names in the audience from people who might be interested in that.
Yeah, there are no discussions tonight nor questions regarding short-term rentals. As we said in the last meeting when we had the last public workshop that we had, the Selectmen's workshop that was done in public, let's say it that way. Item 4, commendation for Matthew Philbrick and Brian Fairfield. On January 6, 2021, while treating roads for icy conditions on School Street, Matt Philbrick, our Public Works employee, noticed that an older man had fallen into waist-deep drainage area of the street. He quickly responded and saved the individual from hypothermia and other serious injuries and ensured that the gentleman received appropriate medical attention. Brian Fairfield happened to be driving by when he witnessed Matt attempting to rescue the resident. Brian assisted with the rescue, communicated with the family, and found the resident's dog. Staff thought it would be appropriate, and we agree, to recognize the efforts of both these employees and of this employee and community member. I would like to have a motion to award a commendation to both Matthew Philbrick and Brian Fairfield.
Can we just bring up Matt and Brian? And I don't know if Mike wants to say a couple things.
You're muted, Mike.
I just want to say, Matt does a wonderful job plowing, all our drivers do. But sometimes when you're doing your job and you look and you see something, you've got to make a decision, what to do. And I think Matt made the right decision that day. He looked, saw something and stopped and took care of it. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things that you can't train people to do. You've got to be aware, and you've got to have a good sense of what's going on, and just to be able to look around and see a problem and react real quick is something that we've all probably been in situations where we didn't act quickly when we thought we should have, and regretted it. Matt did not do it that day, and I'm glad he didn't. And I think, talking to Jay Everett, fire chief, after that, he said, it could have been really bad if things had gone bad and Matt had just driven by that person, because nobody else might have seen him just because of the height of Matt's truck. So I just want to say thanks, Matt, and did a great job.
And Brian, who's here with us tonight as well.
Hey, Brian.
Hey there.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, guys.
Hey, that's tremendous, Brian. But both of you guys, just goes to show the caliber of people that we have that work and live in this town.
It's a great town. It's a great town.
Yes,
Proud to
it
be
is.
a part of it.
It's comforting to have people like these two gentlemen here, because you're not alone. And if you get in trouble, somebody's going to help you out. It's just our way of doing business. It's what makes us a pleasant nice town, you know?
Terrific, and I think we should have a motion to award these selectmen's commendations to both of these gentlemen.
Then I move that we award the certificate of selectmen's commendation to Brian Fairfield, and again, a certificate of selectmen's commendation to Matthew Philbrick.
And I second the motion.
Right, it's been motioned by Ed Hutchins and seconded by Pat Briggs, and I agree 100%. So those in agreement, just raise your hands.
Thank you.
And these
Good to
commendations,
see you, Brian.
these commendations will be awarded in person, Lori?
Mike will be, yes.
Like, great. Super, thanks, guys. Great
Oh,
job.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Appointment of Chris Mayo as interim harbor master at the Kennebunk River. Jim Black resigned from his position as Kennebunk River Harbor Master right before Christmas. As you know, the Kennebunk River Harbor Master serves both the town of Kennebunk and Kennebunkport. We agreed to have Chris Mayo fill in during this transition as we work to develop a foundation to move forward in the river. We are requesting that Chris be appointed as interim harbor master so that he has all the necessary authority to act in the river. Kennebunk Selectmen are appointing him as well at their meeting.
I just have a question. I don't have a problem with it. I'd like to see him in Cape Porpoise, but I understand that, you know, we need a harbor master over there and things are pretty quiet. But since they're both paid positions, are we going to compensate him for doing this, Lori, or is that something that you two are gonna hash out?
Well, first of all, Kennebunk has agreed to reimburse Kennebunkport for Chris's time, which would go back to the pier budget.
Okay.
In terms of compensation for both rivers, it's something we're discussing right now this is short term. So Mike and I are discussing what makes sense long term.
I
and
just
then
don't want
we
to
would
burn him
talk
out.
about that.
He's such an asset to Cape Porpoise. I don't want to see him burnt out, that's all.
I think we all agree on that.
Yeah, okay. Well, then I would make a motion that we appoint Chris Mayo as interim harbor master of the Kennebunk River.
And I second.
Okay, so Ed Hutchins has motioned that we appoint Chris Mayo as interim harbor master of the Kennebunk River. And Pat Briggs has seconded. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye, aye. Good, done. Congratulations, Chris. I hope.
I hope.
I hope. Okay, set the number, item 6. Set the number of shellfish licenses, license fees, and length of the season. Everett Leach, Shellfish Warden, and the Shellfish Conservation Committee are recommending the same number of licenses and same rules in 2020 be authorized for 2021, which would mean that we would have Board of Selectmen authorizes 0 daily licenses, 2 residential commercial licenses, 75 resident recreational licenses, 8 non-resident recreation licenses, and 1 warden recreational license for 2021. The Board of Selectmen further authorizes a flats be open from 4:15 to 10:15, digging to occur on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday only, that recreational diggers may only take 1 peck per week, and that commercial diggers may take 2 pecks per day. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Tracy, do you have anything to add to that, or?
I don't. That's all. It's all there. The only thing that isn't specified is that of those 75 resident licenses, 25 of those are designated for 65 years old and older. And of the non-resident, 3 of the 8 are designated for 65 and older. But other than that, it's all right there.
Tracy, what's the fee structure? I didn't see it on here. If you don't have it in front of you, it's okay. I just thought some,
I believe the commercial are $200 a piece, and resident are 15, and non-resident, I think, are 25. I'm not sure. Whatever it was last year is the same.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the licenses as read by Mike and the closures or flats open as per Mike.
Wait, just to clarify, it's from April 15th. You said 4/15. Somebody might be thinking of time. And so it's April 15th through October 15th. Just to let you know.
Them clam diggers get up pretty early.
Yeah, I know.
Plus the tide's high.
I'm wondering, anyway, I second the motion.
Okay, so it's been motioned by Ed and seconded by Pat. All those in agreement? Aye, aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the clam licenses, shellfish licenses have been approved for 2021. Okay, the item 7, Solid Waste Committee recycling presentation. Did you want to do this, Laurie?
Yeah, we have John Dykstra, who I believe Dave is bringing up, and Lissa Bitterman I saw there.
Yep, I promoted both of them. I don't see a Vanessa.
So it
Lissa's
must-
there. I don't believe Vanessa is with us. It's Lissa Bitterman.
There we are with Lissa and John.
Greetings, folks. Then I can go ahead and share my screen and we'll hop right in.
John, do you want to just introduce yourself and Lissa?
I shall. Is the screen visible to y'all?
Yes.
Great. Let's go back and let's try at the beginning. So my name is John Dykstra. I'm here with Lissa Bitterman, who is EcoMain's Business Development Manager. I am the chair of our Solid Waste and Recycling Committee. What we will be doing tonight is a tag team for this presentation to bring you up to speed as to where we are with curbside recycling and how this is a call for all of us to work together to be able to make recycling a success. I'll start the presentation, then I'll stop sharing my screen. Lissa will share hers, and we'll finish the presentation. So this has been our first full week of our first week period of curbside recycling. So far, it seems to be going pretty smoothly. Mine was picked up almost at the crack of dawn today, and I did not get an oops ticket, so I'm pleased to say that. We also last Saturday had our opening event at the town garage. It truly was a smashing success. We gave away over 130 bins. That was 100 from EcoMain. And then we had about 30 bins that actually were recycled bins. So they were bins that had been returned to the town offices by folks, for residents who had moved away, and we were able to repurpose those to our current residents. Lots of marketing materials distributed. We had probably over 300 folks. That's not cars, but that's certainly folks that came. Well over 150 cars that came through, well over. So great success. Now, how do we make recycling work? What we know is that the town has already done their part. The select board has committed the money. The town manager has signed contracts with both Casella for collection and EcoMain for processing. Now it's we, the residents, that have to make it work. And there are 3 principal things we have to do. We have to watch out for contamination, contamination, and contamination. I mean, really, how hard can that be? So if we're mindful of what we put in the bins, we'll keep our contamination low. Why is that important? That's critically important because contamination is directly proportional to the money that we have to spend as a town. This is the fee chart that Kennebunkport has to pay if a ton or a load of recycling is brought in, even at the lowest amount, if it's between 6 and 10% contaminated, if we bring in 10 tons of recyclables, we'll be charged an extra $350, $35 a ton above what the normal processing fee would be. So it's real money. And we have a responsibility as residents to keep contamination low. And that's what Lissa's presentation is going to be all about. What is contamination, how we can identify it so that we don't put it in our bins. One thing to note is in the past, we had recycling several years ago, as everyone knows. At that point, the contamination was not being measured because we weren't paying for it because of a previous agreement. And what we have heard just through the grapevine and talking to EcoMaine, that those loads were well over 20% contaminated, mostly all the time. So clearly, we have to do a better job than what we did in the past. And it's learning about contaminations that's the key. So only we, the residents, can prevent contamination. There are plenty of tools that we have been distributing and will distribute more. Basically, there's also a great app called the Recyclopedia. Here's the website contact, but just go to EcoMaine site, ecomaine.com, and you'll see a link to it. And it will tell you what is and isn't recyclable. And again, if you're in doubt, throw it out. Don't throw it in the bin. And we have to stop wish cycling, and you'll see what that's about. And please always remember, recycling is kind of the last resort in this eco effort. We have to first really focus on reducing what we have, reusing what we can, and then recycling what is appropriate. So I will, with that introduction, turn it over to Lissa. I'm going to stop my share.
Can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Looking
Okay,
good. Your voice is
excellent.
a little soft, Lissa.
Okay, well, I've never, not normally get accused of that, so I'll have
It's
to,
perfect now.
is it? Okay, very good. Just want to thank everybody for having me present tonight at your meeting, and also to thank the community for entrusting us with your recycling and with your education. I want to just get this into presentation mode here. There we go. Okay, so I will do sort of a quick little presentation here so that we can do a preliminary education for the residents about contamination and how the community can do their part to keep the recycling as clean as possible. The issue with contamination is that it's a real cost. We can't send bales of recyclables to our customers if they have trash or inappropriate items in them. The important thing for the community to know is that it will cost Kennebunkport in real fees that John laid out before. It also impacts the quality of the recycling that we sell if there's inappropriate items in. It hurts the environment because if we receive a load of recycling that's, say, 40 or 50% contaminated with trash and wish cycling items, we may not be able to actually salvage that load. And so then all those recyclables are actually having to be thrown out with the trash that comes in with them. And as well, several items get put in the recycling bin that can cause real safety risks, not only for the truck drivers, but for the EcoMaine staff, and also that can possibly damage our plant as well. This is a quick video of how the recycling lands at our facility. And whoops, I don't know why that didn't work. Hopefully this will work. Here we go. Your recycling gets on the floor and it gets pushed up, all mixed in together with everybody else's recycling up into our facility, and then onto a system of conveyor belts and various automated tools, robots, magnets, etc., that will separate the recyclables out into their various commodity streams. Just so you know, your recycling is weighed before it gets dumped on the floor, so that we know exactly how many tons came in from Kennebunkport and all of our customers. These are two different ways that the material is actually separated. They're both star screen separators. They're mechanical sorting systems. And the way they work is that it's a series of axles with large rubber stars on them, kind of staggered throughout, and they're spinning. So the material rides up onto the stars, and on the left-hand side of your screen there, those large stars pull out the cardboard. It goes up and over, and all of the small items fall down in between those stars onto another belt, and they go on for further separation. On the right-hand side, it's the same system, but that star screen separator is for paper, which is going to be smaller. And so the stars are smaller and the axles are smaller. So the paper pretty much dances up over the bed of axles, and all of the plastic, metal, and glass containers fall down in between the empty spaces, and they go on for separation. The reason that things that we would call tanglers are a problem in our facility is you'll be able to see it in the video. This is the cardboard star screen separator. All the materials being dumped into it. Orientation. There it is. You can see the cardboard spin over. The little things are supposed to fall down between those spaces in the stars. The issue is that when lots of plastic bags, when they put in tarps and Christmas lights, chains, and bedding, it gets wrapped on those axles. And all of the space where the small items are supposed to fall down through gets filled up, and materials go right over with the cardboard. This is the
So Lissa, you're kind of breaking up a little bit with the video.
Over.
Yeah, it's better not to have the video running.
It's already been separated, going off to the baler. And this bag wrapped around the axles. This is what is contamination, and this is what creates problems at our plant. So one of the things that people tend to be most confused about is plastics. How do you figure out what plastics go in single stream recycling? You may apply this rule, this plastic rule of thumb or golden rule of plastics recycling, to every single piece of plastic, and it will tell you whether or not it belongs in your recycling that comes to EcoMaine. You must answer yes to all three of these questions. Does it have a number 1 through 7 in the middle of the chasing arrows or the triangle that symbolizes recycling? Is it rigid or hard? And is it a container? If you answer yes to all three of these questions, you can put it in. If you answer no to one of them, it does not belong in your single stream recycling. Also, a caveat is that no styrofoam ever is acceptable in your single stream recycling, even if it has a triangle on it and the number 6. If you have questions about that, feel free to get in touch with us and we can give you the answers why. I'm just trying to stay to my time here. So here's some photos of plastic do's and don'ts. Also, this whole presentation will be on the town's recycling website, so you'll be able to reference these photos later. The critical exception here is that clear plastic bags tied off at the neck with shredded paper inside of them are acceptable. The only way that we can collect and manage shredded paper is if it comes all in a bag. If we can see what it is, we hand pull it out, we rip that bag open and dump the shred into the paper on its way to the baler, and then we throw out the plastic bag. That is the only time plastic bags are acceptable in the recycling with EcoMaine. There's all kinds of what we would call plastic films. These are all don'ts. Some of these items can be recycled at your local grocery store or big box store, along with plastic bags. Here are star screen separators. Real people have to go into these things with box cutters and cut away all of the contaminants. So this is a safety issue, and usually has to be done once or twice a day because of all the different materials that people put in the recycling that don't belong there. So we really want people to be thinking about plastic films in particular. You can go to a website, plasticfilmrecycling.org, to get your questions about plastic bags, bubble wrap, air pouches, anything that we would consider plastic film. You can get your answer at that website about what to do with it. There it is again. Beautiful thing. These are also what we would call tanglers. We get these items every single day, hundreds of them. These are what wrap around the star screen separators and cause problems in our plant. Please don't put them in your recycling. These are other don'ts. We get these items every single day. Whoops, sorry. So again, please don't include these items in your single sort. One thing that people get really confused about with regards to contamination and food is how clean is clean. What we say is that with containers, particularly things coming out of your kitchen, is dump your liquids. Well, actually, first use up all the product, get in there, scrape it out, but it doesn't have to be perfectly clean. Use up what you would so that you don't waste it. Dump the liquids, rinse the container with warm water. No need to use soap or put it in the dishwasher. A little bit of residue of the product is okay. So rinsed, not clean. And these are some examples. The top line is okay. The bottom line is not, or bottom row. So you can see at the top that some residue of food is okay and greasy pizza boxes are fine. But we just don't want you throwing in your container that's half full of hummus, has a quarter cup of peanut butter still left in it. And we don't want pizza crust or slices of pizza in the boxes, but they can be greasy. That's okay. Just take the food out. So here's a picture of a really, really good load of single sort recycling. This is what we get a lot of. Please don't bag your recycling. We need it loose so our equipment can manage the material. Wish cycling. This is the process of throwing inappropriate items into the recycling bin, hoping that EcoMaine will know what to do with them. Please call us if you have something that you have a question on. Go to the Recyclopedia or send us an email and we'll let you know if it's okay. I'm just going to go through a few pictures of things that we get every single day that people wish cycle. They just want them to be recycled so badly. They feel badly about throwing them out. They don't belong in our plant. We get flammable items. The upper left-hand corner is a bale of metal that's on fire because there were lithium-ion batteries in that. We get propane containers. We get sheets and blankets. Here's some oxygen tanks that somebody recycled. These are all corrosive items that are incredibly dangerous, corrosive batteries, chemicals. The picture below is of our crew fighting a fire in the pile. Had they not done that, we would have lost the plant, that fire in particular. That's a sword that we got. That's a big metal pipe that jackknifed in the plant and cut a $10,000 belt right down the middle. We got 2 of those in a month once. Other scrap metal, all your scrap metal belongs in a scrap metal bin, not in your recycling. And just lastly, please remember our staff. These are real people who are dealing with these materials and these items. They can get hurt and we don't want that. We know you don't want that either. The bottom line is that we are thrilled to have your community on board. We want your recycling and we are here to be your partner in knowing what to put in the bin and what not to put in the bin. Access the EcoMaine Recyclopedia, go to our website, ecomaine.org, call us or email us 5 times a day, 10 times a day. We don't care. We will help you and we're there for you to know what to put in your bin and what not to put in your bin. And thank you so much for coming on board with us. We're excited. It's going to be great. And that's it.
Good, very good.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
So it was a little difficult to hear you, Lisa, when the video was playing. But I
Sure.
think the important point that you were trying to relate to people is those plastic bags that people get a lot of really tangle up the equipment. They cause shutdowns. They are a contamination.
Correct. Yep, anything that we would call a plastic film, which would be bubble wrap, plastic bags, those air pouches that you get in a lot of orders, all of those items tangle around our equipment and cause shutdowns. And if they do make it through into a bale of material, no matter what type of material they get into, they're always going to be considered contamination. Most of those plastic films, if they have a number 2 or a number 4 on them, can go back to the grocery store or big box store and be recycled.
So that brings up a great point about your Recyclopedia. I've used that app and it is, I thought it was an app you could download on your phone as well.
You can from iTunes or the Google Play.
Cool.
And so one great thing is it not only tells you whether it's recyclable or not, it also gives you words of wisdom about where you could potentially recycle it. Even if single stream recycling is not the right place for it, where you might be able to send it.
That is correct. There are a lot of items that people end up, not needing anymore, or are a byproduct of, running a home or a business that can be recycled. They just don't have a home in single stream or single sort recycling. So, we're always happy to give advice on things that can go elsewhere to be recycled. And if we don't know the answer, we'll go out and find it, and we'll add it to the Recyclopedia, or we'll email you or call you back once we know what to do with it. I got a call a couple of years ago about someone with marine flares. They wanted to recycle them. They didn't know what to do. So I actually ended up talking with the state fire marshal to find out what to do with them. And, calls like that are very welcome all the time.
So there was a lot of information you presented. People might be feeling a little overwhelmed. Of course, we all want to do a good job. But what's great is we do have the Kennebunkport Recycle website and Facebook page. And John, people can go on those and ask questions?
Absolutely. Yes, and also the Facebook particularly is a great spot to post your questions.
I deleted all my.
And we're linked up to the Kennebunkport Recycle Facebook page, and we'll be posting all kinds of information. You're certainly also welcome to go on the EcoMaine Facebook and Twitter accounts, and you can just learn a lot more that way as well. That's going to be appropriate for your program because you're an EcoMaine community now.
And we'll post John and Melissa's presentation tonight on the Kennebunkport Recycle website, and it will have high quality audio, we promise.
Thanks, guys.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you very
John.
much.
Thank you, Alyssa.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, that was good, very good. Review the proposed revisions to the animal control ordinance as submitted by the Beach Advisory Committee. Is Tracy gonna do this?
So we have Richard Driver and Kate Bauer-Burke and Chief Sanford who will be coming up to discuss this.
Okay. You want me to read the paragraph?
I think they'll give us a little introduction.
Good.
Do you need any help finding people, Dave? Mike, you can go back to hiding your video.
2.
And there's Jim Burke. And what is Elliot? What is he supposed to be in? Elliot? Separators? I guess that's later.
Dave, have you found Kate?
I found Jim Burke. I'm playing a hunch.
Kate, can you raise your hand? I think you're Kate too, maybe, or are you Jim Burke?
Jim Burke
Kate.
is now a panelist, but with sound and video off. I can promote Kate too if you'd like.
Kate Bauer-Burke, are you out there in the audience? Can you raise your hand? I'll keep an eye out for her. If Richard, you want to start?
Sure. As most of you know, in 2013, we proposed a change to the animal control ordinance. And it was in part in reaction to what Scarborough was going through in terms of fines for what they call a taking of a plover. A taking is killing, injuring, or disturbing the nest. So in 2020, our summer season, the birds just don't seem to understand that we have designated area in the west end of the beach that they're supposed to put their nests. They've in fact taken over the whole beach. During the summer, there was a nest as far east as Jeffrey's Way. The whole beach, the 2.5 miles river to river, is designated as a essential habitat both for the plovers and the terns. In 2013, the potential fine for negligent or intentional taking was $25,000. Now, the fine for an intentional taking is over $50,000, and intentional is defined very broadly. And that's what Scarborough got caught up in terms of their ordinance and what they permitted in terms of dogs off leash. So we appointed a subcommittee of the Beach Advisory Committee to tackle any changes and come back with a recommendation. I should note that the 4 members of that subcommittee are all dog owners. In fact, 2 of them have 2 dogs. I have a dog. Jim Overhill was a dog owner. So it's not a issue of members of the committee not liking dogs. We've had a problem since the inception of the ordinance in 2013 in terms of enforcement. It is really a pain for the police department and the CSOs. The ordinance is not as simple as it could be, and that was sort of the goal of the subcommittee. So the subcommittee was formed after our meeting in the fall, and there was a notice. I don't know whether you realize it, but we have a Facebook page that we have notices on, and Constant Contact that we have notices on, and of course the town site. So the fact that the dog ordinance discussion was going to come up was on our agenda and was publicized. And on our December meeting, the report, which you should have in your packet, was posted about a week ahead of time on the town, with our agenda on the town site. So it was available to anybody who was interested. I was going to turn it over to Kate.
Oh, did you just see her, Dave? Someone had their hand up for a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, so there were a number of reasons to try and refine the ordinance, simplify it, address the fact that it's not the plovers are not restricted to just the west end of the beach. They're, we talk to them, they don't listen. They mate and build their nests wherever they feel comfortable. And we have most of the area of the beach has dune grass, and they build their nests in the dune grass. And then when we talked about this in 2013, people kept saying, well, how about Gooch's Beach? Gooch's Beach in Kennebunk, they let the dogs run loose. Well, Gooch's Beach is not a habitat. It doesn't have any dune grass. No, and I thought I'd cut the phone off, but it's Kate. Let me just, Kate?
All right, I shown at speak two when I followed the link. I'm trying to get on.
Okay.
Richard, I muted you because of the feedback. You need to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Dave.
Did you say she was Kate too?
Yeah.
All right, I'll try and promote Kate too.
I think she
Oh,
is
there
no
she
longer.
is.
You see her?
Yep. Kate, if you can hear me, would you unmute yourself and turn on the video? Okay.
You're
You're still muted, Kate. Okay. All right. So
I'm glad you can see me because I
let me-
can't see anything now. Oh,
let-
sorry.
So let me turn it over to Kate to talk about the contrast between the current ordinance and what is proposed, and really what we're talking about is getting it on a warrant for the next election, or if you have a special meeting in between. I guess we've lost.
We lost her again.
She's back in attendees.
I'm promoting her again.
Thank you, Dave. Kate, you're back in as a panelist. You just need to turn your video and mic on. We can see
You're still
you.
muted.
And the unmute button.
There you are.
Okay.
Great.
So, Kate,
Yeah, I've been.
before we lose you again, would you do a contrast between the existing ordinance and what's being proposed?
You want me to, okay. One of the problems we were trying to deal with in this exercise, I mean, I can quickly talk about the birds, which you've already talked about, and the issue of the changing profile on the beach. But one of the issues is the more difficult or more complex an ordinance is, the more difficult it is to enforce. Thanks, for our police officers and CSOs to enforce. And the more difficult it is for the public to understand it, because obviously our first hope is that the public will understand the rules and exercise voluntary compliance. So in this exercise of going through the existing ordinance, all of us, I mean, we've heard this from people many times over as people stand there scratching their heads trying to figure out what are the rules that are in place right now? Am I allowed to walk my dog out? Is it the right time? Is it the right time of year, et cetera? So our goal was to follow the keep it simple, stupid rule as close as we could and make it easier for law enforcement as well as public education. As Richard mentioned, and I'm probably going back over some stuff, Carol Sherman, Jen Wasserman, Joanne Guston, and I are all longtime dog owners, dog lovers, big dogs, small dogs. I've had both, et cetera. And all of us have been here a very long time. I think I was counting up and I figured we're pretty close to about 200 years if you put all 4 of our experiences at the beach together. So we all love this beach. We all love dogs and we want dogs to be part of this beach. There has never been the slightest hint of anywhere that we were trying to ban dogs from the beach. That was never any part of this and never would be. The existing dog ordinance is pretty complicated. And if I knew how to do what John did so beautifully, I would have made a chart and just put it right up there as a comparison. But right now, from April 1st to June 15th, dogs are allowed at the beach at any time of day, either on leash or under voice and sight control. But they must be on leash at that West End plover protection area, because when this reissue of the ordinance was done back in 2013, 2015, most of the plovers, as Richard pointed out, were in fact nesting at the far west end of the beach. So they defined that. Unfortunately, the plovers never got that email, and they have been nesting all over the beach. And I fully expect, as Richard mentioned, this past summer, we've had them as far east as the Jeffreys Way entrance, which is the easternmost entrance to the beach. And I wouldn't be surprised if next summer we don't have plovers basking along the banks of the Little River. So we have the problem, the issue of the birds all up and down the beach. So that was June 1st to 6:15. We thought they'd all stay at the west end. Dogs could be off leash if under voice and sight control. Then from June 15th to September 30th, dogs were not allowed on the beach at all between 8:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. They could be off leash under voice and sight control from 6 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. And then for the next hour, 7:30 to 8:30, they had to be on leash. And after 6, they had to be on leash. And then from October 1st through, March 31st, dogs could be on the beach any time of day, but they would have to be on leash between 12 and 2 to give people who just wanted to walk without encountering unleashed dogs a chance to enjoy the beach, or people who wanted to walk their dogs on leash again without encountering unleashed dogs. Again, they were supposed to be under voice and sight control. There is a definition in the existing ordinance that defines voice and sight control, and I have it here, but well, basically it's that the dog returns immediately to its owner's handler's side when it is called and stays there. We're not proposing any changes in that definition. However, I have to be honest in saying I've never seen a dog on Goose Rocks Beach that meets that criteria. But that's not an issue we can resolve. That's more of an issue for enforcement at some point. But in fact, I've had 2 instances just in the last couple of days on the beach with 2 small dogs and a friend with a young dog who was a bit skittish. And I've had unleashed dogs come charging up and cause a problem. So, but any event, we've got 5 issues we really looked at. 2 I already mentioned in this process was the try and make it as simple as possible to make it easier from the enforcement angle and to make it easier from the public education angle. Richard's already talked about the birds. We know that we have a potential for liability to the town, which could be a substantial amount of money if in fact a bird is hurt, an endangered bird is hurt or damaged, killed, and the regulatory authorities do view us as not having placed sufficient protections in terms of the ordinance we have put in place about dogs. We've also talked some about, we looked a lot at the changing profile of the beach. This beach is much more intensively used than it has been even 5 to 7 years ago when the first ordinance or the most recent ordinance was put in place. There are many more people and many more dogs. It's no longer the sort of small community beach where everybody pretty much knew each other and knew each other's dogs. And there are many more people here even in the off season. I don't know if any of you had a chance to be on the beach just in the last couple of days. I mean, we're in the middle of January, a time of year normally, if I were on the beach, you know, when we first started coming up here and at that time of year, I wouldn't have seen another soul pretty much on a cold, raw day. The beach was pretty crowded. I mean, not like summer crowded, but pretty crowded a couple of days ago when we had that beautiful sunny day where it was in the low 40s. And I would say at least 50% of the people who were walking the beach had dogs with them. So there are 3 constituents really for the beach now, both people, dogs, and protected birds. And we tried to come together in the 4 of us who were working on this initially came to the project with all with a strong love of dogs and a strong understanding that dogs are part of our family and we want to see them be part of the beach. But with perhaps different perspectives of some of us wanted to see dogs stay as free as possible, and others were concerned about the interactions with people and birds and felt we needed to re-examine the situation. But I will say that everybody came to the project with great respect and with a willingness to compromise. So what we came up with and proposed to the Beach Advisory Committee, and they adopted unanimously at our December meeting, was this: from April 1st to September 15th, that's 2 weeks short of where the dogs had to stay off the beach or had more deeper restrictions. April 1st to September 15th, anytime the dogs are allowed on the beach, they must be on leash. That basically covers the nesting season from April 1st through like Labor Day, which is generally seen as the nesting season for the piping plovers and least terns. And also an additional 2 weeks because this beach is also seen as a habitat for migratory birds, a lot of migratory birds. So again, to try and protect the birds from April 1st to September 15th, there will be no more off-leash time allowed. However, from June 15th to Labor Day, the summer season, we bought the dogs more time on the beach. Instead of having to be off by 8:30, the dogs don't have to be off the beach until 9 a.m. and they may return onto the beach at 5 p.m. instead of at 6. And in addition, as I said, that restriction of dogs being on the beach in the middle of the day under the existing rules extends right through September. That will end now at Labor Day. Okay, dogs can be back on the beach any time of the day at Labor Day instead of waiting till the end of the month, but they do have to be on leash. So we give up the off-leash time during the sort of the nesting season / summer prime time, but we get the dogs more actual time on the beach as long as they're on a leash. And then from September 16th through March 31st, again, dogs can be on the beach at any time of day. They have to be on leash from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. We felt like 2 hours only was a little bit short. So they have to be on leash from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. The whole rest of the time, all morning. They want to walk into the evening, whatever, the dogs can be off leash as long as they're under voice and sight control. As I said, in some, we think basically half the year the dogs have to be on leash, protects the birds from injury and the town from liability. And it also, protects people. I mean, there are some people who don't really want to deal with dogs. I've seen that situation on the beach, even in the summertime. And all of us who think our dogs are the most wonderful and adorable and friendliest dogs in the world, I've got 2 little dogs, each of them 20 pounds, that look like Lady from Lady and the Tramp. And I can't imagine how anybody would find them scary. But I've seen a small child who perhaps is on the beach who is not used to being with dogs look terrified. So we have to look at all the aspects of how dogs appear and how they function. And then we increase the time that dogs can be on the beach during the summer season, even though they give up any off-leash time. And then half of the year the dogs can be off-leash most of the day, except for the afternoon time when people can walk freely or dogs unleashed can walk freely. We think it's simpler to understand, simpler to enforce. So that's why we're proposing these changes in the rules.
I made some more chicken the other night with that air fryer,
Thank you.
and I dialed the time
Well,
up a little bit.
Chief, anything you want to say?
When we take enforcement on the beach, especially in the early part of the spring and summer, most of our violations are because folks do not have their dogs on leash when they're supposed to be. So, it is an issue, at that time of the year. And a lot of times folks that are visiting from away that rent, a lot of times their violation is that the dog is off the leash when they're not supposed to be. And again, over this last year, I've had one person call and complain about having an inappropriate contact with a dog that was off a leash. So that's about it.
Good. Well, I was part of the process as the representative of the Selectmen to the committee, and I recommend that we have a motion to approve this change in the ordinance.
Well, since I'm all too familiar with the Endangered Species Act, we better do this. So I make that motion.
As it's been corrected, right? Right. I second.
Yeah. Okay, all those, I'm also in favor. All those in favor? Aye, 3 ayes. Thank you. Ed made the motion, Pat Briggs seconded. Okay.
Kate, Richard, thank you very much. That was a
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks a lot.
There's a lot of work. Appreciate the work. If you could see what went behind it, you'd appreciate it to everybody.
Well, I think you made a good compromise given the cards that you were dealt.
Yeah, well, we had a great team, and as I said, as Richard said, and I reiterated, we all love dogs, and none of us want to see them banned from the beach. This was never, or
There's
even
a lot of places in town to
some
walk
other towns have. Yeah, so we're trying to reach a good compromise, and I think this hopefully will work.
I love dogs too, but I'm finding that this cat here that I have, I don't know if you can see him, he's a lot easier to deal with.
True.
Okay, thanks. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, moving on to item 9, the Colony Hotel, proposed improvements of Colony Avenue. The Colony Hotel is currently before the planning board as they undertake a large renovation and addition project on their properties. Lori, you want to bring that up?
Yeah, so Dave is gonna bring up Elliot Sideries, and we have Mike here, and Werner will be coming to join us. And I see John Martin in the audience. Elliot, are we bringing John up as well?
If you can bring him up, I don't think I can, but
No, you can't. But I'm asking, did you want anybody else from your team to be?
yes, as many as possible.
I don't know who else is in your team, Elliot. You'll have to be more
We've got-
specific.
Okay, sure. Elliot Sideridis of Windward Development. Good evening, members of the board. Here on behalf of
Elliot, do we have any other teammates that you want, or?
John Martin,
Uh-huh.
Ralph Austin,
Oh, Ralph and John have their hands up. Okay, we'll bring them up.
Bill Walsh, if he's there.
I don't see Bill,
That's okay.
but we'll bring John and Ralph up. All right, Elliot, do you want to introduce your team?
Yes, good evening, members of the board. Elliot Sideridis of Windward Development here on behalf of the Boughton Hotel Group. Here with me tonight, I don't see them, but John Martin, General Manager of the Colony Hotel, and Ralph Austin, hopefully, is with you.
We see them.
Okay. Just wondering, Lori, if you could bring up the items that I had sent you, if possible. Could you share those?
Well, which one do you want me to share?
So I think we should just briefly show the overall plan of the Colony Hotel North and South Campus so that the members of the board could see the overall concept. For a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
And then we can shift to the right-of-way work, which is specifically what we're talking about tonight.
Okay, Dave, I'm gonna share my screen.
That's it. Perfect. So this overall map shows Colony Avenue bisecting what is our major design piece of the project, which is the green space that looks like an oval with the Colony Avenue bisecting it. And the existing South Campus, which has the main hotel on it, is intact. And basically, we're replicating that crescent on the other side of the North Campus to create this oval green space and organize the parking and the buildings, the new buildings around this design move. So Lori, if we can shift to specifically the right-of-way enlargement that we had sent to you so that the members could see what we're currently presenting, which is in the town right-of-way, and has generated some questions, and hopefully we've answered them. But let's bring that up if we can.
Yep, I'm just switching. So are you seeing it now?
Yes, yes. So if you look at the center of the drawing, you'll see a blue line, which shows a new sidewalk on the south side of Colony Avenue. Yes, exactly. And that is now replacing what is pretty much a dirt path that's elevated from the road approximately 1'6". And that we're proposing to be a sidewalk which will serve the pedestrians that walk along Ocean Avenue and up Colony Avenue, and also serve the residents of Cape Arundel. So this is a sidewalk that doesn't just serve the Colony Hotel. In fact, it probably serves more of the residents in Cape Arundel area and South Main Street than it does the Colony Hotel. And we feel strongly about that because, as most of you know who've walked those streets, South Main Street's a very dangerous street to walk on. Colony, the Ocean Avenue is a bit safer because it has a network of sidewalks. There's more sight lines that are predictable. And this move, we feel, is important. The next two moves, which are on either side of it, you'll see in blue, Lori, if you could point to those on the left and the right of the sidewalk, are crosswalks that join the north and south campuses. And those are critical to the hotel itself and its relationship to each other, north and south. It's a safer condition for pedestrians to cross the Colony Avenue to their rooms and vice versa, to the restaurants and pool. The third move that we're making along Colony Avenue is the fact that we're reducing the curb cuts on Colony Avenue from what they are today and aligning them to make them safer. We've put a lot of thought into this with the police chief and fire chiefs and public works, and feel that this alignment and reduction of curb cuts will provide a safer environment for the hotel and for the residents. Fourth move, we are proposing incorporating some street lamps along the sidewalk and along at each end of the crosswalks, so that they would provide a safer condition for Colony Avenue. Lori had brought up a couple points when we first submitted this and Mike as well. They wanted to see the stone gates set back from the roadways.
So right
approximately.
here are the stone gates.
Yep,
And maybe we should just show people where the right of way is. So this red line here,
yes,
and then the red line right behind the proposed sidewalk. So you can see that Colony Avenue hugs one side of the right of way, but the red line demarcates the right of way, so you can kind of see things in the right of way.
yep, thank you. So those would be set back approximately 6 feet
So here are these stone
arch.
entrances
Yep.
that Elliot's talking about here,
And they mirror the existing entrances on the south side.
over here, yeah.
So those are important. The other thing that Mike had brought up are in terms of our landscape plan, they would like to see the trees set back from the roadways 10 feet for plowing and salting purposes. Town, they do a great job, but sometimes they need a little more leeway with snow and so forth. So that was an item that they had brought to our attention. And as we move towards Ocean Avenue down that street, if you can just slide that over, Lori. There are a couple of crosswalks, and we could start with the one on the southernmost point at the corner. If you could put your pointer there, Lori. There is a current, no, a little bit further down. There you go, right there, right there. There's currently a diagonal sidewalk that goes from the corner of Colony Avenue, right at the corner where the sign is, across to where the breakwater is. And it doesn't do what our drawing is showing at this point. It's a very dangerous diagonal crosswalk. And so what we were proposing was to make a crosswalk across Colony Avenue first, more perpendicular, and then cross again across the street to the breakwater, which would make an easier sight line for cars, oncoming cars, and pedestrians crossing the street. It's always better to have crosswalks perpendicular if possible, rather than long diagonals. And then we're proposing a sidewalk that goes all the way down to the next crosswalk and in front of our market building, that if you point to the most northern portion of that sidewalk, Lori, that's the end of the sidewalk, which butts up against the Edgewater, or I think it's the Blue Water or Edgewater. I'm not quite sure. I don't have that name in front of me, but it used to be the green heron. So that is our proposal within the right of way. I think what I'd like to do is turn the presentation over to Ralph Austin, and I'd like him to talk a little bit about the red clouded area on Colony Avenue, which shows 4 parking spaces that are within the right of way. Ralph, if you can chime in on that and maybe explain a little bit of what we're trying to do there. Thank you.
So do you want me to stop sharing, Ralph, or?
Doesn't matter. I don't need the plan, so it's a question. Yeah. The comment from staff was that if the board allows those parking spaces, that they cannot be considered under zoning purposes, if you will, for required spaces for planning board purposes. That's not an issue with us. On the North Campus, we have 42 excess parking spaces already planned. And so if we have to delete those from the Um,
So I'm just gonna point those out, Ralph.
Sure. You can go back to sharing on that then.
So on here, we're talking about, here
Those
is,
correct.
those parking spots there would be, you can see the red line in the right of way.
Correct.
This piece of the parking lot here would be in the right of way. This tiny little bit of the parking lot here, we would have these pillars, stone entrances. We would have some landscaping that could enter the right of way. And then on this side, it would be the sidewalk that would be in the right of way.
Correct. And again, on the parking spaces, it just makes a better design to allow those to be as planned. But we understand we can't include those in our calculations to the planning board. But we have enough excess spaces that we don't need to include those. One document that I did prepare that I think the board has is kind of a license agreement that would allow the landscaping and these infrastructure improvements to be located within the right-of-way. It's very similar to one that the board allowed out on Pier Road and Langsford Road, the intersection there, where the property owner wanted some landscaping improvements.
I think a brilliant attorney helped us craft that.
If you say so. But this one is very similar. It recognizes that Boughton Hotel would be responsible for maintenance of any of the trees and other, the parking lot and anything like that. And also understands that the board at any time, if it needed that area of the right of way, we would have to remove the improvements that were located in that. And it also calls for the Colony Hotel to provide appropriate liability insurance within that area to protect the town. I don't know if there's any questions on that agreement or on.
No, my only question was, Ralph, is if we had that looked at by our attorneys.
Not yet.
Not yet. So that was my only question. Don't have any real disagreements on it.
There are blanks in that form only because obviously, one, you haven't approved, but two, it really needs to wait. I mean, we'd like the board obviously to approve us going ahead with this, but you can't sign and give final sign off until the planning board gives its approval, because if there's any changes from the planning board, we might have to come back to you.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't recommend that we approve it until our attorneys looked at it.
Agreed. Yeah.
So just so the board is clear, Mike and Werner are here to answer any questions about the right-of-way or about the planning board process. The colony is currently in the planning board process still right now. Part of their design, does include things in the right-of-way. So there are two levels. One is, as you have done with a couple of other property owners, most recently, I believe was Hurricane Restaurant, we can come to an agreement to allow them to use part of the right-of-way for specific purposes. We have put in agreements before that the town would give 30 days notice if we needed the right-of-way back, and they would need to remove whatever they have placed in the right-of-way.
Correct.
The second piece of that is the gifts of sidewalk and street lights. So the selectmen don't have the authority to agree to that. That would need a town meeting vote for acceptance of those. And I think, the question is, which I have discussed with Elliot in the past, is, public benefit in order for the town to accept it. I know that you've recently had conversations with subdivisions about public benefit and that test in terms of accepting certain items. But I would turn it over to Mike and Werner to see if they have any other comments they'd like to add.
I'll just note that, we are in the planning board process, and where we have some improvements here, that are outside the boundary lines. We're looking for the Board of Selectmen's input, as the board moves forward with the review of this project. Typically, typically driveway and parking lot entrances, we wouldn't normally bring forward to the selectmen for entrances, but where there's a fair amount of other infrastructure that the colony is requesting to have, we'd like to get the board's permission and approval on that, so that the planning board can move forward.
I have a couple of questions. In the very first iteration I saw of this, and it goes back a while. In fact, I think I was chairman when I first saw it. This whole area was going to be painted a different color. Is that no longer in the plan?
Yeah, there was originally a concept that we might have colored pavement in there and some other amenities, straightening of the road. Those are not part of the current design. Is that correct, Elliot?
Yes, that's correct.
And are you going to do any work on Colony Avenue itself, other than just tying everything together?
Yes. We're going to be bringing the utilities from overhead to underground. We're going to be improving the sight lines. But the most important item that we're doing on Colony Avenue is creating this green space that visually connects from one side to the other. So there's a significant infrastructure being proposed. Water and sewer are going to be getting upgraded. Those are over 100-year-old systems. So significant.
Let me rephrase that. Apparently I wasn't clear. Are you going to rip up the road surface?
Yes.
Sounds like you are. And you're going to pay to put it back?
Yes. Unless you would.
I don't think, Mike, it's not on our schedule, is it? I mean, we have a very detailed schedule of every road in town.
Get back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the water district, just to clarify, the water district probably will end up replacing their main all the way from in front of Sonny's Lobster all the way up, because that's where, they've got at the bridge, they've got new water main at the bridge and then goes down Colony. It goes down Ocean Ave towards the Nonanum, which was done this spring. But they'll probably try to connect in. So we've got some work to do on Ocean Avenue with the water district, besides Colony Avenue. So I think there's some minor costs there. Well, I shouldn't say minor. There are some costs in there we've got to work out with the water district also.
I don't see any issue. The plan is very nice, and certainly a lot of thought has gone into this, and I could see it being an improvement. So long as it doesn't cost the taxpayers of Kennebunkport any extra for the work that you do. I'm certainly open to the idea of signing an agreement with you.
So, Mike, can you talk about the streetlight piece? And we've had the lighting committee.
So currently on Colony Ave, there's one old radio wave light, which has a nice new LED bulb in it. And that's proposed to come down. And the colony's looking to use lights somewhat similar to what we've got in Dock Square to light the sidewalk. The lighting committee has some concerns about making sure that those lights aren't too much and that they're appropriate for the sidewalk in the area and that they meet our lighting ordinance. And so that needs to get worked out. Our lighting ordinance on making sure those lights, radio wave street lights, point all the light down. If in Dock Square, if you look at those type of lights, they go out the sides. And so there's some limits on that in our lighting ordinance that we have to take a look at.
I have some questions. Okay. Could we go back to the initial chart that shows the entire plan of the development?
Yep. Let me just,
Okay.
I have to go back there and bring it up first, and then I'll share it. Are you seeing it?
Yes, it's good. Thank you. I'm a weekly visitor to the Colony Hotel in the summertime. And when we go, the parking lot that's in the horseshoe in front of the hotel is always full, and it's full of the people who stay there. And I noticed that on the other side of the street, you've got what I think are new buildings planned. Is that correct? Because I don't believe there's anything on.
Yes.
What will be going on in those buildings? Is it more?
Sure. I can explain a little bit. So if you look at the North Campus, let's focus on the North Campus.
Right.
They're currently on the North Campus, you have the Fontenay Terrace on the far left, which isn't shown. And then you've got several buildings in the middle area, and then the East House on the right, which is another hotel. So all of that's getting cleaned out, and we're proposing 2 buildings. One market, which is on Colony Avenue, and it will be an open air market with several rooms above. That's building number 2. You see the building 2?
Right.
So that's fronting on Colony Avenue, and that's an open air market on the ground floor.
You mean Ocean Avenue,
I'm
don't you?
sorry, Ocean Avenue. And there's a separate parking lot for that market, and above it will be several rooms on building 2. As you go on to Colony Avenue and look at that horseshoe or the oval parking lot, you have 3 sections of buildings interconnected. It's building 1, and they're connections because we're shaping them to the curve. And those buildings will house just rooms, guest rooms.
Okay. So this highlights the point I want to make. When I come, as I said, weekly during the summer, I park on the north side, and I'm usually between the 2 green trees on the right side to protect from the sun. And that whole parking lot behind it is full of cars. And those are people that I think are coming from the town to the hotel to either eat or to go swimming or whatever. And the lot is jammed full. So I'm thinking if you put 3 more buildings up there, they're going to bring additional requirements for parking. You're not going to have enough parking to do that. And I'm wondering if you thought about the impact, because in the summertime, it's so crowded in that parking lot, that dirt parking lot that's there. Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, you placed a guy there who charged the people to come in and park on that lot, which I understand. Point is, you're going to bring more requirements for parking in cars, and you're going to have less parking to deal with over and above what you've already experienced. How do you handle that?
So that's a great question. So the parking lot that your experience as being full, if I had my pointer, I could show you on the overall map, I could show you where that parking lot is in relation to our current map. And Lori, if you could pull that up again, I can, and you can point to it if I just direct you. The parking area where, say, the curved portion of Colony Avenue where it meets Ocean Avenue, and if you take from that, yes, exactly. If you go from there go to the right, Lori. Keep on going to the right, keep on going to the right, stop right there. A little bit back. Okay, right there. And if you draw a line straight back to the creek, Pat, that area to the left is the parking lot that you're describing.
No,
And what's difficult to understand, because we're just showing you an overall after the fact build, is what is currently there. And I'd be happy to show you, but basically the area that we're talking about now and how we've reorganized the parking and also created the green space accommodates many, many, many more cars more efficiently than what you are describing you see weekly. So that's the short answer, but we at the planning board, our planning board submissions show exactly how much more green space there is in that oval than is currently there now. If you take the pointer right where Lori is pointing right now, if you take that pointer and travel to the left towards Ocean Avenue, the east house is right there, and then it goes back to the creek and back across. So it's a little deceiving in the current plan, because the property is a very large piece now, where before the property was much smaller.
okay.
How many parking spaces are you adding?
The parking space count for the, let me find it so I give you exact numbers. We are adding on the North Campus from what currently is there, almost 42 cars, 42 spaces.
Well, this is something for the planning board.
It's the planning board issue, yeah.
And I don't want to belabor the point. I just wanted to make sure that it doesn't look quite like it's going to accommodate the increased number of cars you got there. Basically, if that's the case, and it's going to make it impossible virtually for the townspeople to come to use the Colony Hotel. Just saying, that's all. We don't need to discuss this any further, in my view, because it's in front of the planning board.
Thanks.
Thank you.
My only concern with this is that I remember when I was on the planning board that we never discussed crosswalks, et cetera, until after, as part of the development plan or part of the planning board plan, because it has to be done by the traffic studies, et cetera, et cetera. So I couldn't look at this and say, boy, that's a great idea to have those crosswalks where they are, because I don't think they are. So
Yeah, certainly crosswalks are something that our staff would work on, depending on need and looking at it overall, but it's not something that we would have the selectmen or the planning board agree to.
So what are we looking for tonight?
Well, we want to know whether you're interested in an agreement to allow these items in the right of way, first of all. So staff would work with the town attorney and Ralph to develop an agreement to bring back to you. The second piece is the sidewalk and street lights, whether that's something you would consider bringing to the town for acceptance or not.
I have no problem with the right of way, but I have a big problem with the sidewalk and the lighting. I think that's strictly for the colony's benefit and not for, there aren't a lot of people that walk down from up on Cape Arundel down to Ocean Avenue. I can tell you that. And so my feeling is that we should not be accepting anything that is benefiting commercial or private property. That's the way I feel about it. I don't have any problem with the right of way, because as long as we have the agreement. That's me.
I agree.
So I would not propose that we would move forward to accept sidewalks or lighting. It's a no-win proposition. For the town, anyway. But I think it's nice on your design. I think it's really neat.
I don't understand why, but I think it would be helpful to have sidewalks there. What am I missing?
So we want to accept the use of the right-of-way?
Approve the use of the right of way for their purposes.
Well, you can really direct.
I think if you guys are leaning in that direction, it would be appropriate to give staff direction to develop an agreement with the Colonies team and bring it back for your approval at a later date.
Okay, you want to do that, guys?
Yep.
So as long as we're good with, that nobody misunderstands that we want to accept the sidewalk or the lights.
Okay. Do we need a motion, Lori? I don't think so, do we? We're just giving direction.
We hear you and we'll bring back an agreement.
Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? Typically under, we're supposed to maintain sidewalks in the winter. Do you want us snow blowing that sidewalk? I guess that's one, that would be one question, you know. It's in the public right of way, so generally we would do it. But if we're not, you know, and I don't think, you know, I just like to get that clear. Clear if we could.
Do we do it now, Mike?
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't change.
Well, this sidewalk doesn't
This is
exist,
the new
right?
side. Yeah, the new
It's there.
side.
Is that you're talking that the step up there that's there, you're snow blowing that now?
No, there's not, no, we just do the sidewalk that goes along the Colony, along the breakwater, along the stone
On
wall.
Ocean Avenue.
Oh,
I think it
okay.
makes,
So
I
the-
think it makes
yeah.
sense that we would talk about that with the
Yeah.
town attorney
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought you meant you were snow blowing it now.
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sidewalk, you're right, Mike, it only serves the colony.
Yeah.
Looking.
I like the overall plan, though. I really do. It's Colony is one of my favorite places. And a lot of people.
Certainly an icon in town.
Yeah, it's neat. You know, you can see it from Mount Agamenticus. So
I'm not surprised. You know, never mind.
Lori, can I make a comment? One comment? Lori?
Yep.
Can we talk a little bit about Ocean Avenue, and is the board also feeling the same way regarding the sidewalk in front of building number 2? And the only reason I bring it up is because knowing Ocean Avenue fairly well, most of the hotel and businesses back right out onto Ocean Avenue, which is a very dangerous situation. There's probably no exception to that all along Ocean Avenue, and I include Port Lobster, Mabel's, Nonantum. Our sidewalk there provides a safer condition where the cars can back out of building number 2, make a 3-point turn and enter Ocean Avenue frontally. So that's the reason why we designed that, really not for aesthetics, but for safety. So I just wanted to be clear so we're all on the same page. The board, I understand what the board's position is on the Colony Avenue. What is the board's position on that sidewalk in front of building 2? Is it the same?
It is. As far as I'm concerned, the sidewalk issues in the town of Kennebunkport are the purview of the town of Kennebunkport, not developers. or developments. I don't mean developers, developments. So I would say that that is the same. What you're doing is making it a larger area than it is now. And so it's up, I would say it's up to you then to provide the safety for your clients. It's just, I just don't like the idea of, we have a hard time accepting roads, have a hard time accepting sidewalks that are not generally for the public.
I might agree with Elliot as far as the Ocean Avenue sidewalk. I can see some benefit there, but in the sense that I think it would be a good idea to allow it in the right of way, but we don't necessarily need to accept it.
It might be worthwhile for the board to visit that area, go down and take a look, and Mike could even meet you down there if anybody feels like they need more information, because it is hard to imagine what's there currently and what it might look like in the future.
It's been a while since we've had a field trip.
Yeah, I was there today and with these plans and taking a look at it.
Okay.
And but it wasn't in regard to this section of sidewalk. It was in just looking at trying to visualize all of this stuff.
How about as far as Ocean Avenue goes, I reserve the right to make my mind up later. Is that okay?
Sure. Sure.
Thank you.
I think the other thing we can do to put both the developers' mind at ease and our mind at ease is we could have the police chief and Mike and so forth, and people look and see if it really is a benefit.
Well, we agree, and we've had those conversations with both the police chief, fire marshal on site, and walked those sites, and they provided letters to the planning board and the town, in case you're interested in reading those.
Oh yeah, I am. Yeah, I didn't realize that those were there because we don't have them.
So I mean, certainly, I just want to clarify that staff have reviewed development plans as they normally do. I don't know that they viewed it with this particular lens, and so it would be appropriate to ask their opinion on whether there should be a town sidewalk.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Anything else, guys? Ed, Pat, anything else?
Nope.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank
you very much.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
So Dave, we are going to keep Werner with us and bring up Corinna, who is, I believe, SMPDC 2.
Okay, we're going on to item 10, authorize a memorandum of understanding with the Southern Maine Solar Collaborative in accordance with the climate change goals adopted by the Board of Selectmen. You want to pick that up, Lori?
Sure. So we have Corinna with us. She's been very patient with us this evening. Thank you, Corinna.
No problem.
And you'll remember that Corinna's our sustainability coordinator with our 6-town cooperative. And we have been looking at the climate change goals from the Selectmen and what opportunities there exist, including looking at solar power, both to reduce costs for the town and also to provide for renewable energy. So I'm going to turn it over to Corinna right now.
Yeah, hi everyone. Good to see you all again. And I know we're getting kind of later in the evening, so I'll try and make this as short and sweet as possible. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Does that look all right? And then slideshow. All right, so I just have some slides to sort of help us get through this concept of our Southern Maine Solar Collaborative. It's something we've been working on with 6 towns here in Southern Maine trying to figure out how we can work together to take advantage of Maine's new net energy billing program. And tonight I wanted to share with you sort of a quick overview of what that net energy billing program is for municipalities, and then why we're trying to work together on it as a group of towns, and then the memorandum of understanding we've developed to sort of solidify our commitment to working together to do this process. So the net metering, the net energy billing program was established from legislation back in 2019 called LD 1711. And for residents of Maine, it expanded the net metering program to allow them to net meter solar on their roofs or participate in community solar farms. It also set up a new net energy billing program that specifically for commercial and industrial customers, such as municipalities, to participate. And so how this works is that now municipalities can get solar energy from solar farms that are not located within your town or not connected to any of your municipal buildings. The solar project just has to be anywhere within CMP's utility grid, and then it uses the net energy billing to attribute that energy to you, the municipality or the client. So it kind of follows this diagram where you have a solar project somewhere on the grid and it delivers electricity to the utility. And then the utility measures how much electricity they've received, and that is then converted into monetary credits, so dollar credits, called net energy billing credits, that are then applied to you, the client's account. So it's a direct, cost discount on your utility bills you're receiving from CMP on your electricity bills. And then you, as the client, pay the solar project a discounted rate for those credits. So that rate may be, they're kind of offering all over the place, 15%, 20%, 25% discounted rate on your electricity. So in the end, you're saving a significant chunk of money by participating in the net energy billing program. And you're also able to retain the renewable energy credits that certify that you're using zero emission solar electricity. So it's a great way for municipalities to purchase solar power and purchase low carbon energy when you might not have the capacity to install a solar farm on town-owned land or somewhere in your town. And so how this all works is it's a little different than, say, a rooftop solar project. It's called a net energy billing credit agreement, or an NEBCA. It's a legal agreement between you and the solar developer to purchase these credits for them at that significant discount. And so I know we've talked a bunch about, Kennebunkport's new climate goals and specifically the goal to reduce municipal fossil fuel consumption. So I just wanted to put this sort of into the context of where this particular program fits into your renewable energy goals. And the point is that this is sort of one piece of the puzzle. So the graph here is, say the total amount of electricity that Kennebunkport uses a year. And to decrease your electricity emissions, you're going to have to do a couple different strategies, but this net energy billing credit program could be a way to significantly reduce the electricity emissions that Kennebunkport has for municipal operations. It could be one significant strategy, and then you could also pursue putting rooftop or ground mount solar at public facilities. You could reduce electricity use by putting in energy efficiency projects, and in particular, upgrading all the streetlights to LEDs like you're currently working on. And then, maybe in the future, there's going to be other new types of solar projects or offshore wind. And all of these strategies are important for, figuring out how to reduce your emissions. And so this is just one piece of that puzzle. So I wanted to provide maybe an estimate of what Kennebunkport could potentially save financially by participating in this program, because that's really sort of where the state is getting with this program and trying to support solar development by offering these great opportunities to save money on electricity costs. So Lori and some folks in the finance department helped me get some data on Kennebunkport's municipal electricity use. So in 2019, Kennebunkport used 1,165.
1 million.
500. Yeah, right. Oh, 1 million. You're right. A lot of electricity. And spent about $175,000 on it. Most of that being on buildings, but a significant chunk, about 50,000 on streetlight electricity use. So say that Kennebunkport signs a net energy billing credit agreement to buy enough credits to account for, say, 60% of the town's electricity costs. And I say 60% because, you know, it's just one piece of the puzzle. You want to leave room for upgrading streetlights that will significantly reduce your electricity costs, energy efficiency, other projects. So this gets kind of complicated. There's a lot of math here. So I'll go through it kind of quickly, but basically you say to the solar developer, I want to purchase credits to account for a certain amount of kilowatt hours. In this case, it'd be 700,000 kilowatt hours. And then they say, great, we'll generate that much electricity. And for each kilowatt hour generated, you're going to get a credit worth 12.5 cents. So then they go through and generate the electricity, they convert it to the credit, and that credit is applied to your utility bill. And then after that credit is discounted from your utility bill, then you pay the developer at that discounted credit price. So in this case, I put in a discounted credit price of 20%. That's a pretty conservative estimate based on what I've seen working with some other towns, especially through doing an RFP process. So, but I just didn't want to oversell here. So 20% discount is pretty typical. So for Kennebunkport, that would result in a saving of about $17,600 per year. And over the course of the 20-year contract, which is consistent with the legislation, that's $352,000 saved from electricity costs. And at the same time you're making these savings, you can also retain those renewable energy credits and claim that you're using renewable solar energy for your municipal electricity. So it's a really good opportunity both to save money. That money could eventually be reinvested into other energy or climate related initiatives in the community, and also to meet your renewable energy goals.
Are there any upfront costs?
There are no upfront costs. Everything is, the entire solar array is owned by the developer, so it's total third-party ownership. It's like you're subscribing to the system. And so the first thing you pay is the payment of the credits to the developer once the solar panels start producing electricity.
The developer will be asking for a long-term contract though,
Yes.
20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened? Okay, do we have to guarantee a particular usage?
Yep. So you purchase a particular allocation, which is also why you want to be conservative and not, say we want to cover 100% of our electricity use, because you might decrease your electricity use in the future, or it might go up, but you just don't. It's better to not go over, because then you'll be buying more credits than you need.
So there is some cost associated if we don't hit our target, is what you're saying. There's a penalty if we don't hit our targets?
There's no penalty, but you don't, if currently in the legislation, if you purchase more credits that equal more money than what your bill from CMP is, you don't get money from CMP. You get to zero, and they don't, give you additional. That could potentially change in the future.
The challenge is to hit the sweet spot of enough so that we're taking advantage of the savings and the renewable energy, but not so much that we don't give ourselves the ability over a 20-year period to make amendments to our energy use, or to take on little solar projects that we might want locally.
Mm-hmm.
We have a number in mind.
We haven't discussed it thoroughly. I would say around the 60% mark is probably a good guess, plus or minus, 10%, but that's something we'll we'll work on going forward if we continue to pursue this process. It doesn't have to be set until you sign the agreement with the solar developer. And that sort of gets to this point of us trying to work together, right? Because Kennebunkport does not have a huge electricity use compared to, say, larger towns in Maine. But by working together and sort of consolidating our purchase of electricity, we are going to be able to receive better offers from solar developers through an RFP process, because they'll be more interested in allocating all the energy use from an entire solar array to a group of towns, rather than trying to work individually with different towns to get this chunk here and that chunk there. And it also means that, you know, Kennebunkport can participate without, you know, with only committing a smaller amount of their electricity use, rather than, you know, trying to get the developer to give them a good deal by saying they'll give the developer all of their electricity use. So that's why we wanted to sort of work together as a group of municipalities to get better pricing options, to reduce your staff time that you would have to put in to run an individual request for proposals process and evaluate options. We're hoping to do that through my time as the regional sustainability coordinator and work with our land use planner at SMPDC. It's also going to help us to negotiate better contract terms with the developers. You know, we'll help that process of reviewing the contracts, making sure that they're friendly for the municipalities and have, you know, good options and aren't just sort of the bare bones contract. It's also an opportunity working together for the municipalities to learn about this net energy billing program and take advantage of it when otherwise it might seem sort of overwhelming. It's certainly a complicated program the state has put together, and figuring out the terminology, let alone, you know, how it works, is hard to do. So by working together, we're navigating the process a little more clearly. And then that last point of allowing smaller communities like Kennebunkport, we also have Freiburg and Agunquit participating, while we have larger communities that then allow us to have this larger procurement that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So there's a lot of good reasons for us to work together. And so to do that, we sort of ad hocly put together the Southern Maine Solar Collaborative, which is this multi-town effort with the idea that we'll use a single RFP to get solar project proposals for all the municipalities to enter into these net energy billing contract agreements. So we'll work together to select a single or maybe two bids with standard contract agreed upon by all the municipalities, and all the municipalities can participate in the proposal evaluation and selection process. And then at the end of the day, it will be up to your individual municipality to finalize your contract and sign it individually with the developer. So
How many have signed so far? Towns?
So we're all doing this at the same time. So do you mean just sign net energy billing contracts in general, or as part of our six?
How many have agreed to this program?
Oh, yeah, so we have 6 towns currently participating, one of which Kennebunkport, Agunquit, Old Orchard Beach, Freiburg, Kittery, and Waterboro.
But we haven't signed.
No. So that's what this part is.
All the other towns are bringing it to their boards for acceptance at the same time we are.
Yep.
Why I asked about the cost, upfront costs is and I'm sure it's nothing, but when you read the agreement, item 5 and 7, there's a line on number 5 at the end that says individual members will be responsible for entering into, administering, and paying for their own discrete costs under the master framework. And then I'm down under 7, it says municipalities shall pay for their own direct costs under the NEBCA's. My only question was, what kind of costs are we looking for? And are they going to be less than what we would get on credits?
Right. Sorry. I guess the term cost in there is a bit vague, but the costs are just paying for the credits in the end. Those are the only costs, and then incurred by a town that were to sign an agreement.
It says direct costs, though, you know. And direct cost means stuff that we pay for. So that's,
And when I read the agreement, direct cost would be if we wanted legal review of our particular contract, that would be our cost.
okay. Okay, it's not a staff thing or,
Yeah, so right now Southern Maine Planning is assisting us. We all are members of Southern Maine Planning because it's all
Yeah.
part of that membership. And the only other piece would be any staff time that we spend on it.
okay. Sounds like a good thing for me, to me.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, because it is 6 towns, but these are different 6 towns than our 6-town
Right.
cooperative that Corinna is a part of. But Corinna is helping us out anyway. Kittery and Kennebunkport are 2 of the coastal 6 towns. We've included some others as well.
Yeah, so I hope you all had a chance to look at the memorandum of understanding, and the goal of it is really to just show the potential bidders that our towns, if they so choose to join, are committed to working together to participate in Maine's net energy billing program. And at the end of the day, it's the memorandum of understanding is really a short-term agreement with no financial obligations. Sorry, click my screen. Or obligation for the towns to actually enter into one of these agreements at, after the process is over. So it's really just to commit ourselves as a group and to make sure that the boards are on board as well with pursuing this action farther.
So do I have a motion to authorize the town manager to enter into the Southern Maine Solar Collaborative Memorandum of Understanding?
Well, this is without a commitment to invest, is that correct?
Yes.
This is just for us to go forward with an RFP process.
Yeah, it's the thing that was in our packet that if you read it, it's pretty interesting to read. If you like that stuff, it's sort of interesting to read.
Well, you know, the last time I read such an interesting document, it was for a timeshare, which I sincerely regretted buying. So I have to spend a lot more time looking at it because there are some areas that just don't seem to be fully described, let's say. So yeah, let's go ahead and we'll dance. But,
You want to make a motion, Pat?
I move that we authorize the town manager to sign the memorandum of understanding to carry out further studies on this joint agreement.
A second?
As long as it's solar and not offshore wind, I'm good with it.
So I'm good with it too. So those in favor, please.
Self put my hands up.
Okay, aye, okay, great. Let the record show that we all voted unanimously again.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, thank you. That was great. It's great. Well, okay, next. Moving right along.
Moving right along to item 11.
Item number 11, amendment to the emergency paid sick leave policy adopted on April 6, 2020, and it for the COVID coverage. So you want to bring us up to date, Laurie?
Yes, last year in the spring, the federal government established the Families First Coronavirus Act, where they established that there would be paid leave for employees who were impacted by COVID, as well as they expanded the use of the Family Medical Leave Act to deal with children who didn't have daycare or school might have been closed. So that all ended December 31st, and the federal government has expanded the ability of employers to continue this through March 31st. Keep in mind that for private employers, there are tax credits associated with these policies. For the municipality, there are no tax credits. But our HR department has been working on this with our labor attorney, and we are proposing that we continue the 80 hours of paid leave associated with COVID illness or COVID quarantine until March 31st. And if anyone has used their 80 hours already or a portion thereof, it only brings forward the balance that they would have remaining. We think that this is important because in order to safeguard the general public and each other, we need to make sure that employees have the time they need to faithfully report when they're feeling ill, and to safeguard all of us. We think it's important to have it on the books.
Great. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ed moved, Pat seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Let the record show that it was unanimous, all three. Okay, moving right along to number 12. Accept donations. What I thought I would do, the best thing to do, I think, would be to, why don't I read all of the donations and then we'll vote on.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot, which is terrific. So, accept a donation of $10,000 from Tim Harrington to the nurse's general accounts. Accept a donation of $2,000 from an anonymous donor to the nurse's general account. Accept a donation of $500 from an anonymous donor to the nurse's general account. So that's 10,000, 2,000, 500. Accept a donation of $120 from Allison and Randy Stevens to the nurse's general account. Accept a donation of $150 from Deb Lennon to the nurse's general account. Accept a donation of $1,200 from Ben and Tara Rubin to the Recreation Scholarship account to cover kids in daycare educational assistance programs. Accept a donation of, flip the right pages here. Accept a donation of $361.67 from Church on the Cape to the Emergency Fuel Fund. Accept the following donation to Carol Cook Garden. $5 from Melissa Mayfield, $5 from Megan Blackmore, $20 from Eleanor Noonan, $20 from David and Lucy Hardy, $20 from Martha Healy Fried, $20 from Gabby Graken and Brian Fairfield, $25 from Judy Merrill, $25 from Deborah and Paul Gilardi, $25 from Jamie Ramsey, $25 from Mary Bridge and Mark Rusconi, $25 from Richard and Kirsten Woodman, $25 from Ken and Charlotte Bell, $25 from Lizanne James, $50 from Cheryl Kane, $50 from Deb Smith, $50 from Annabelle Wainman, $50 from Alan and Heidi Boucher, $50 from Ed McLeod, $50 from Deborah Lennon, $50 from Charles and Suzanne McLaughlin, $50 from Cynthia Clement, $100 from the Kennebunkport Side Rotary, $100 from Bob Convery, $100 from Carolyn Sherman, and $100 from Tom and Ann Galligan. I think this is absolutely terrific. Everybody, what a nice community.
I move we accept with much appreciation.
Pat?
I second it. I mean, this is a good showing of the kind of support we're getting from the town for these efforts. And I pointed out it's a wide variety of people, because you've got teenagers like Annabelle Lehman and then senior citizens like us, so I think it shows the breadth of our appreciation for the support.
I agree. It's great. All those in favor? Aye, aye. Let the record show that Ed Hutchins made the motion, Pat Briggs seconded, and we all agreed unanimously. So the next item is other business. Ed, other business.
None, thank you.
Pat?
No, I have nothing else.
I have one I'm trying to get. I put this thing on airplane mode, but I want to, I got a call from a citizen shortly before the meeting. And she's requesting the town of Kennebunkport participate in the National Memorial to remember and honor the lives lost to COVID-19 on January 19th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Washington DC ceremony will feature a lighting around the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. Be the first ever lighting around the reflecting pool to memorialize American lives lost. So that's January 19th at 5:30 p.m. So I called Lori and we talked about it. This is not political, this is COVID deaths now. And I said, is there something that the town could do? And so we thought about it, and Lori called Jay at the chief at the fire department, and he agreed to light the fire department at 5:30 on January 19th in support of what's going on. Supposedly it says it's nationwide, so in honor of the people who lost their lives to COVID.
Well, I think we all know somebody, or
Yeah, we do.
more than one person,
Yeah, we do.
unfortunately. That's a terrific idea, Mike.
That was Susie Gessing, one of our citizens who is very active in a lot of different things here in town, senior citizen, and so a very caring person. So I think it's a good idea. Do we need a motion?
I think it would be good to recognize that the town's making this effort for this reason.
Right.
Then I move that we memorialize those who've lost their lives to COVID-19 on, what was the date, Mike? The 19th?
The 19th, the day before the inauguration at 5:30.
Okay. So moved.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Let the record show that Ed motioned, Pat seconded, and all three of us agreed unanimously. Thank you. That's all I had.
Now,
A motion to adjourn? No.
You got to get to treasurer's warrant.
Got to approve the town warrant first.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Ed.
Adjourn.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, all unanimous.
And we need signatures for tomorrow for the warrants.
I gotta pay my fuel bill tomorrow, so I'll be in at the town office. I'll stop in.
Do we need all of us? Do we need all of us?
We need 3.
I'll be there.
I'll come in.
Yeah. Likewise. See you in the morning.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you much.